Okay, this is my last one. Self-portrait of an exhausted faggot. Hey, sometimes I miss the closet, closed off in that singular space, where lavish coats and serapas kept me warm in an embrace. Maybe safety was ensured, but I was wasting away. Hey, mentally I was losing myself, trying to fit into this tiny place that kept shrinking as I grew out of Winnie the Pooh overalls into a vest with punk patches and shaved the ponytails off the top of my head. Peeking through the crack in the door, where freedom tempted me every day. Hey, the day I broke out of this tomb, a rush of tears baptized me, and I was ready for my second coming. But I don't know if anybody told them. Hey, I don't know if anyone told them that I broke out finally free. Hey, I don't know if anyone told them, but no fags allowed is sprayed all over my city. Hey, sometimes I shrink and hold myself and miss the embrace the closet granted me. Hey, how much is freedom really gonna cost me? What's the price of safety and stability? Strength is mandatory. I never got to choose, in or out yet. Hey, strength is only consistency. The strength to fit every day, holding onto the mold, slowly chipping and cracking, or the strength to let it go, let it break into the pieces that built a better foundation for me. A foundation that let me stand up, yell, scream, hey, I'm free, I'm here, I'm me, I'm allowed to be here because I'm free. Hey, being Chicanx and queer is a series of explanations, all in repetition. Being true to yourself is hard when both sides of the border say to despise everything that you are. Hey, I'm brown like you, but you're not down like me. I'm the warrior shedding blood for you, and you're another Malinche, offering me as your sacrifice. Hey, is that the world rambling around me, or do I just got the shakes? I, who am exhausted from being seen, I, who am exhausted from explaining myself. How often do I have to explain myself? Hey, how can anyone see me when I don't want to be seen, yet I have an audience sometimes when I'm screaming? Being queer in secrecy is a padlock. Being out and proud is a spotlight. I'm stuck in a timeline where I constantly have to prove I should exist. How many times do I have to fucking explain myself? I am allowed to be here. I allow myself to be here. Hey, they fucks my stigmata wounds with their dick. He licks the stigmata wounds at my feet. I am all of them and they are me. I allow myself to love here. Hey, I'm just me. Thank you.
So the next three poems, and I promise there will only be three, are based in my new collection, and I was thinking about cruelty, like the concept of cruelty, and understanding that like it doesn't necessarily need to be intentional. It doesn't necessarily need to be completely aware of how we are experiencing things, and so with that little framework, I started thinking about how my current project is fitting within that particular schema. And it's about, it follows my grandfather through his passage and immigration through Hawaii. And he worked in the plantations, in the pineapple plantations, and then found his way into the States, the continent, right, as I say. And so thinking about your participation in this particular economy and how we behave and what we do to move forward while setting other folks back. And the process and project is also trying to comprehend how we move forward, because we're all here now, right? So with that in mind, you know, pineapples, grandfather, I have the next three, they're untitled. So when I do this, that means it's over. Okay. This morning we drive past a field of spines. bristling from crimson clay, the earth so red like an open wound, a bleeding boar's hairbrush, sequestered from the road by a guardrail. The north side lidded by a stretch of sky, violet rays clap through the crowns, bracts, and fruiting bodies to warm the ground. The suckers sprouting off the axles, a garden of serrated blades. Perhaps blood is what has made an iron-rich loam. Perhaps sweat and the spray of other salts have amended the soil. Or maybe it is the memory of care and the presence of men that coax these heavy buds, their hands tilling and shaping an industry standard.
Did you know you can use a tampon to plug a bullet wound? You can't. Well, technically you can, but you really shouldn't. I have that on good authority. No matter what conventional wisdom, it might seem that something designed to stanch your heavy flow might also prevent you from bleeding out, you'd nonetheless be wrong. Are we just too familiar with reaching for the simplest things, anything that might fill the holes that open in all the wrong places, the voids whose edges defy similes of round pegs and square? Nothing real adheres to such symmetry. Smoke and liquor, for instance, seem to fill the interstices with a burn that makes believe it might cauterize your raw and ragged edges where the bullet entered, where your heart seemed to exit. Again, you'd be just as wrong as I am. And I often ponder the inanity in writing these ridiculous poems, shoveling blood and bones and mostly time into this sinkhole I know that I'll never fill. But maybe should you show up with a wound, roughly the shape of these pages, one of them someday might fit. Not where you expected that to go, was it?
This poem's called Obvious Concealments. I wrote it when I noticed that people were doing this consistent behavior pattern where they wanted people to see that they were hiding something. And I thought that that was such a funny gesture. Obvious concealment. Sometimes I want to conceal that sweet lemon glimpse of last summer's moon inside this poem. That's not what I'm trying to do here. At least I'm not trying very hard. Obvious concealments aren't really concealments, I think, because they only draw attention to what we're not supposed to wish was even there. This poem is called Heat Poem, Moody Abaid. What you once gave to me was the feeling for a certain time of day, right before dawn, when our fevers clung together, laying in a dirty bed, our eyes would open, suddenly aflame against the darkness. Then, staring up, our breath would hold and rush in bouts of careful symmetry as we wondered if the other wondered if the other was really even there.
I bank on love, she manumits. Our problem is we can't see ourselves on the same team. I have incredulously high standards, but however you look at it, I'm essentially her slave. I'm at my worst when I transmute myself into the sheep of everyone's void. We don't look at it, and the chip took over the windshield in a web. Each crack led to removal. We talk self-esteem, assume it's invulnerably high, and no one is lowering the sky. Analogies have been absurd when it comes to my suffering. All her complaints are from the Department of Black Stereotypes. This is the secret. The language requires me as sugar honey to her human julep. It's refreshing to be free of denouement when there is no self to recover or body to bury back. If I ever thought my consent was inalienable, there are rings and chains to illustrate the homophonics of ownership. It is not by choice we are here. We arrived at the same time, and that time is historical. I'm trapped in the film that cues in the eyes of those who behold us a graphic imaginary so white it blinds. In any case, what becomes instructed is I'm the nigger and she's the lover while sitting in our living room. While walking down the street, she releases my hand when a policeman approaches and I'm fugitive and forfeited. I belong to a flying people, no earth to carry me down. With so many planets in her 8th house, my social death is a bite of a strange plum. Fleshy and gardenia, we make it our symbol. Because the joke is, I stole her purse, and the crowd is coming to her assistance and coming for my punishment. In those mitotic seconds, I'm a trusted spectacle of cheap intimacy in a world with incomplete sunshine. Thank you.